Hey, Avi, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Udesh. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, for people who don't know yet, why don't we kickstart the conversation with your background, who you are, what you have been doing so far, and everything.
My name is Abirami Sukumaran. I have about 16, a lot over 16 and a half years of experience in software application development, databases, master data management, and in some cases, leadership roles in some of these areas. Currently, I'm a developer advocate with Google, predominantly focusing on Google Cloud databases, and I build applications on Google Cloud database products, experiment them, build solutions to advocate and elevate developer experience with Google Cloud, and also engage with technology community, with developers like you, and participate in tech talks, share my experience with building those applications, and gain an understanding of what excites the developers and what gets them going and how they are experiencing database products and in general any cloud products for that matter. So that really is what I do at the moment. I am My background is has been in computer science always, software application development, I should say, not all areas of computer science for that matter. But yeah, I'm also currently pursuing my doctorate in business administration with specialization in machine learning. That's about it. That's a little bit about me. You can read or connect with me to understand more.
Yeah, absolutely. For people those who don't know, Abirami also has a YouTube channel, TLDR with Abirami Sukumaran. Link in description to check that out. 16 years of your career would come a lot of challenges. What would be some of those challenges that you think you can share, both professionally and personally?
Challenges from both a professional perspective, I would start off with that. Is as the times change, like every half decade or every quarter decade, I would say there is always something new, and you have to you shouldn't even be waiting for that to happen. You should keep up the constant learning pace. It's not a challenge. I would say these are mostly opportunities that have come along my way, but that is number one on my list because that started very early on in my journey. Because I was a campus recruit and I started my work in Infosys, and I didn't look for other opportunities outside because that was a dream for a lot of people at that time, and including me as well. And I was really happy because of the amount of training and the amount of engagement they have with fresh graduates at that time was really engaging for me. And that went off to a great start, and I had a great training experience. But that continued as part of my learning journey because we had a lot of certifications, and they always challenge you with more and more. Like you'll have, it's not a mandatory. If I'm not wrong, I don't exactly remember right now, but I remember becoming the certification champ in Infosys during the first or second year of my career there, and building a lot of applications that were useful or that were on the lines of automation for the team itself, rather than just building solutions and just being part of the solutions we do for customers. I also engaged myself in building something that would make the lives of my team members easier. So it has always been a learning, hands-on training, and hands-on implementation journey for me. So yes, I think the first opportunity anyone will face in their professional, and so did I, is keeping up with the growing landscape of technology. Not just technology, basically everything. You'll have to navigate through the new things that come up with data, applications, and technology. So yes, that is the number one. And professionally, as there is always a contrast or a conflict between, or a personal, like a self conflict between what do you want to choose next. Like, are you happy, are you feeling content with the are you happy about the work that you're doing? Does it motivate you to wake up every day in the morning and go to work and do something that you're doing? And there's always a conflict between that and about your does it pay you well? Of course, that is also an important thing, right? Does it also pay you well, or are you where you want it to be? Is it keeping you happy in every aspect? Of course, a passion triumphs everything, according to me. I mean, I would definitely not argue with someone who says no, money triumphs everything, because it is important too. But what I feel is, for me to to wake up in the morning and go to do something, I have to be driven by it. I've always been driven by passion. So there were times there was no shortage of passion for me inherently, like from motivation and self motivation, and passion was always there. But more often than not, you might be presented with situations which will not allow you to contribute on the areas of your passion, or will demand you to do something that you're not really particularly interested about. It's okay if it's one off. It's okay if it happens, say, once a month or twice a month, or that is okay. But if it becomes a routine, then probably it's time for you to think about what is going to drive me towards my passion. So that is something we need to think about, and that is number two, I would say, choosing what you would like to do and if you're passionate about it, and the conflict between a high paying job, or if you get both at the same place, there is nothing like it. Then I would say just blindfold yourself and take it, and then grow into it, and probably have another have a higher passion or higher goal, so you can keep reaching for it. The third thing is that when you grow in your career, like when you, with years of experience, learning, and exposure, one thing that will come up for sure, if you're not presented with situations like that early on in your college life, in your school life, or early on in your career, is dealing with people. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's amazing to be because we are all interdependent on each other, in a positive way. We all need each other, and we are in a society, we are in a community where, even whether it's work or personal life, but when it comes to work, there are certain formalities which will ensure that we are nice to each other, or at least we are trained to be that way. But again, there are some challenges and opportunities, I would say, where you'll get to learn a lot about people which you have not probably imagined, because we are so used to being ourselves, and certain things about how to navigate human emotions. Like for example, if we are both on the same team, and or let's say different teams, and I need something that your team can help with, or your team I need some information on some of the things that your team is working on. Now, for you to stop everything that you're doing, or not stop, at least pause it a little bit so you can hear me out and help me out with what I'm asking for, or at least spare time from your team to help me with that information. It's got to be important, and it's got to be of some value to you. Or you might be the nicest person on earth and you'd be willing to help. But in any case, I should be knowing how to approach you for that. I should be knowing what to ask, and whether I should ask you for that or not, or whether I should um, I should even consider this as important, because something that's important to me may or may not be important to you, and it's not all about us, right? So considering other people, empathizing with them, is really an opportunity to understand and learn about human emotions, and feel that in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day career and job. That is a challenge and an opportunity, I would say. It's a great thing, but once you learn it, I think there's nothing like it. So that these are the three things that I'd say, because of each one will stand at different phases, but each one of these will keep happening again and again if you're not aware of it. So, like I said, learning as an opportunity, switching or choosing between your passion, priorities, and all the things is an opportunity. And the last one is empathizing and connecting with your coworkers. Those are the three things I look for. Personally, there have been a lot of challenges if you ask about that, but yeah, let's just say that with time, learn to look past all those things. You learn to invest and focus your energy into things that will better you, no matter what. End of the day, you are responsible. That's the learning. I would just share the learning rather than being talking about the challenges in a personal life. Although empathy went a long way, even in my personal life. And another thing that helped me a lot is yoga, like helping self-reflection and connecting with my truest self, and being present. Like all these three things were enabled through yoga, and I think that keeps me grounded, and that's one of the things that I'd like to share.
About your expertise, being a master of data, how can somebody become a master in data? What should they do? What should they start with?
I wouldn't call myself a master of data or anything, because every day there is something new that I learn. In every new application that I build, there's always something new that I learn, whether it's data or an application for data, or a database application. So, yeah, there is always something new that I learn. So, I wouldn't call myself a master. How does one become, all I can say is, how does one become closely associated with it, do things around it? Is I would start with an idea, for beginners I'm talking about, because once you're in corporate, once you're already a part of a system, you always keep getting opportunities. For them, I'll address that part of the community, in the second half of this question. The first half, I would talk to freshers, people who are brand new to this system or brand new to data or anything of that sort, or trying to build something from the scratch, I would say look for ideas, look for applications, find causes, find use cases. I would say use cases is a very corporate term. I would rather use the word cause. Find a cause that you want to build an application for or build technology for, and focus your vision into what kind of data you would need to support that application if it is centered around data. Of course, most of any application that you build right now that relates to reality, that is something to do with society or something that addresses a problem for a private entity or for the community, I would say will be sent will for majority of the part will be centered around data. You will need to collect data, you will need to deal with store data, you will need to process it, you will need to present it in some way or the other and analyze it, provide analytics for it. So data is core at every business's heart. So what I would say is consider as starting with an idea. Think about why you're doing what you're doing. Why should be very clear. And once you're clear with that, then think about what is the data that you need, what is the format, what is the structure, and how should your data be presented or transformed or used in the particular application. What are the different design and business requirements that is needed for your idea? What are the technical challenges that you will be faced with? What are the technical requirements for your idea to build, to translate your idea into an application? And lastly, the design parameters. So consider all of these things, then you will have your answer. You'll have your answer to what technology you need to use, what service do you need to use, do you have to go cloud, which is something that I'm very close to, so I can talk about it. Or analytic, if it's analytics, and if it's data science, if it's ML, like how can I use all this to the power of the business or the use case itself? So that's where I would say start with an idea and evolve technology based on the requirements of your idea. It's not the other way around. So yeah, that's where I would recommend starting. If the choice is cloud, of course, there's a lot of things, but I have written a full 7-part blog series, a 7-part series about databases on Google Cloud, and it talks about different formats and different structures of data. For example, we have databases that centers around relational, that is structured data, and then there is databases structured around document database, NoSQL database. So the different databases are talked about in that blog series. So take a look at that.
We talked about how to start with. So what do you think are those concepts or topics that we should be focusing on? For example, there would be like, MySQL, SQL databases, NoSQL databases, structured, unstructured data, and then data lakes, big data. There are a lot of categories under data. So what should someone start with? How should they progress? And how should their journey look like?
So different forms of databases that you just listed right now, there is no one over the other or one instead of the other. It all depends on your use case, on your requirement, on your cost, like what are you building with this data? How are you going to use this data? What is the format of ingestion of this data? Where is it coming from? Where is it going? Where is it going to be stored? What are the challenges I have? How much budget do I have? Like uh, what are the security requirements that are needed for this? What is my archival strategy? How long do I need to store it? What is the structure of the data, whether it's document, it's video, or is it pictures, or is it tabular format like rows and column, traditional data, relational data? So all these things play an important role. That is why I'm saying I'm going back to the blog series that I talked about. The first part of that blog series talks entirely purely about the basics of the fundamentals of database design or database modeling. So if you take a look at that, it talks about when you should go for what kind of database, and also what are the design questions. It mainly just talks about the various functional design and technical requirements or questions that you need to ask before starting to make that choice of what you need to go with. So definitely take a look at that. That will be a good starting point. But if you ask me where should I start? Again, start with an idea. And if your idea demands you to have a relational database structure, then go for an RDBMS like on cloud. You can start with Cloud SQL, which is pretty straightforward. If you're already having your application that's running on MySQL or on Postgres or on SQL Server, it's an easy switch to cloud by going to use that into Cloud SQL. So that is pretty straightforward. You can also start with Cloud Spanner, which is very convenient. Also, in less than 2 minutes, both these Cloud SQL and Cloud Spanner, you can set up your instance and start building queries and building your application. So that's how easy it is. But if you're thinking about an application like an e-commerce platform, or you're building an application where you have document style data that you're dealing with, then I would say start with Firestore probably. Or if you need a mobile app for your application, start with Firestore or Firebase for that matter. Those are the things that I would say. BigQuery, if you're working, or if you're thinking about analytics, if you're thinking about what do you call, doing some transformations and analytics on the data, showing some visualization, showing some metrics. So you can you can use BigQuery as well. There is BigQuery ML too if you want to use low code prediction, just using ML, just doing ML without any code, without actual like programming languages, but just using SQLs. If you want to do, then you can use BigQuery ML as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do and start with. Just check out the blog series that I told you about. That will give you a fair idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really helps. In fact, I was kind of surprised that you can build machine learning models using SQL queries when I first encountered DQML. It was interesting though. So we talked about databases to start with data. So what is the scope for the jobs in data? I've read somewhere that the world is going data driven, and I'm assuming with that again would come a lot of jobs around data. But again, we have AI and ML to do a lot of data jobs. So what do you think is the scope of data?
The scope of jobs or career in data has always been vast, I would say, because data forms the core or heart of every business application. Even if it's a hardware centric system, or even if it's automation or industrial automation or instrumentation type of application or system that one is building, even there, or mainly there, data plays a vital role. So no matter what industry you're serving, or what industry you're building your product for, or what area your application is focused on, data plays a vital role no matter what. So I would say the scope for opportunity, the scope of opportunities for a data career has always been vast and wide, and now it's even more prevalent because of so many the evolving formats and the evolving structures of data, and it keeps growing. It keeps growing, and I don't remember the exact number right now, but there are applications that, I mean, we have applications that when we deal with customers, or when we deal with startups that ask us for certain requirements, that ask us for certain requirements, or they share certain requirements with us. It is really intriguing to see how much data is being, how much data they are expecting to transfer or transaction within a few milliseconds. So that really promises, or that really shows that there is a lot of opportunity there in that industry, or in that area for that matter. So yeah, from a career perspective, you could be a database developer. You can be a full stack application developer who is an expert in data. You could be a database operations specialist, like a data ops person. You could be a database administrator. Particularly with cloud, you will have a lot more added diverse responsibilities, I would say, because you can't be the traditional database administrator that you've always been, particularly when you're moving to cloud, because you might not be having to do a lot of things that you were doing in the manual setup or in the on-prem setup. But as you evolve into cloud, you probably have less of those requirements and more of scope for innovation, or using data to the power of enhancing the availability, or enhancing the performance and the scalability of your application. So you'll have a lot more responsibilities there. So yes, administration is definitely still a good scope. Operations, like I said. building DevOps cycle and all that is still very coveted skill to have. So that is there. Yeah, these are some of the things that I can think of, and the opportunities continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I mean, I think now I see a lot of data jobs than I used to see before. And
Analysts, sorry, I forgot this important thing. Data analysts are still, when you're just looking at, so the ones that I shared before are for databases, I perhaps. There's also data specific roles like data analysts. You could be in the big data, which is data engineering roles, and you could be in what do you call that? In visualization, like reporting. You could be in that as well. You could be a marketing specialist who specializes in analyzing the data, building forecasts, and all that. And you could be an ML expert. You could be a data scientist. Yeah, data scientist is something. Data engineering, data analyst. A lot of things. A lot of scope is scope for career opportunities when it comes to data. And every day there is a new term that I'm learning. So yeah.
cool. Yeah, indeed, it seems like a huge scope for job opportunities in that domain. I've observed that you are, much more into yoga, teaching them, practicing it, and of course, for people who usually, who practice yoga they would within themselves have a good productivity. So, how do you increase productivity? How can somebody be productive?
At a personal level and professional level, I think productivity is mostly driven by self motivation and the inherent passion that you have for things and the inherent drive that you have to get things done. Um, Yoga has played a vital role in my case, both in my personal life and in my professional life. More often than not, I get things done because of the drive that I have towards the goals that I have or towards the things that I'm passionate about. So that way, yoga is something like that for me. You get to do it. Of course, it has to be a part of your life for that to turn into motivation. No matter how low or down you're feeling in a specific day and time. In my case, at least, yoga brings me back up and lifts my mood up right that second and drives the things that I want to do for that particular day. So self motivation plays a vital role in productivity. There's a bunch of things that I can keep talking about this. Probably we can have a separate podcast just for productivity or just for the topic of self motivation or motivation for that matter. But I'll just give you hints of it. Strategic procrastination is a concept which is okay, and I believe in that, where you don't really have to keep doing things all the time. Rather, it's okay if you procrastinate a little bit, but the thought of what you want to do or the thinking process is going on in the background, in the back of your head. You're always grinding about it, and then no matter what you do, like you're walking on a treadmill or you're watching something that's completely irrelevant, or you're going to a party, or you're just talking to a friend. The problem statement is grinding in the back of your head, but you're doing something that's completely irrelevant. But that will give you an opportunity to think about it differently, to sleep over it, have a complete whole new perspective about it. So the next day you start working on that solution, you'll have a entirely different problem solving approach. And you might even get that thing done sooner. So yeah, I believe in strategic procrastination, which is the opposite of productivity, but that's a different kind of productivity, which we can talk again another day in detail. But yeah, that's something that I believe in, and that has helped me drive my productivity to a great extent. So I do procrastinate because that's a question I get asked a lot. Don't you procrastinate ever? I do a lot, but that needs to be strategic, and that comes from the fact that you are in your to-do list. You always have things that you're passionate about. You want to do those things. You should want to do those things. Just remove cross the check cross the items of your checklist that do not drive your interest. But there are some things that you have to do anyway. Just bite the bullet and do it. But yeah, make sure your checklist is full of things that drives you.
So another question which I get a lot is, how to keep ourselves motivated during our lowest times, because many a times people say they're not motivated enough to do things. They want to do things, but they don't feel like doing it because they're feeling down by something else. How can somebody motivate themselves? I'm not sure about myself because I always try to motivate by myself, and I don't take any external motivations. I try to find inspirations from others, but when it comes to motivation, I also always try to do it from within myself. So I don't really have an answer to that for them. But what do you think can somebody do to motivate themselves?
You will be motivated or you will be driven to do things only if you believe that your life depends on it. Or you will only be motivated or driven to do the things that you cannot live without. You'll only be finding time or making time to do the things if you believe that, and you will not procrastinate. I'm not talking of the strategic procrastination again, the delaying of things. Only if you believe that your life is going to end if you do not do it, like if you're solely dependent on it. So that is the mindset. So every time you are feeling demotivated to do the things that are really important to you, then think about it in this way, in this approach, that if you don't do it, who is going to be at loss? It is you. Like, your life is dependent, your day-to-day progress, your ultimate goal is dependent on doing that particular thing. And if you choose not to do it, you're at loss. So condition your mind to think of it that way. Now, how can I be up and running all the time? No, it's not possible. As human, we all always or very frequently have our low times, mood swings, or downfalls, and our shortcomings and all those. We definitely go through times like that. But being a little more less criticizing of yourself and more driven towards your goals will be a best substitute for moments like that. Will be the best substitute for moments like that. So what I would rather say is, yeah, it's okay to feel demotivated. Embrace that side of yours. Embrace feeling low. Embrace feeling the need for attention or the need for sympathy. Embrace all that, but wrap it up quickly. You'll have to bounce back and immediately think that your life is dependent on it. You've got to do something about it. When you're down or when you're demotivated, look at it, things in this light, but again, do it a little differently. Rather than, for example, if you're writing a paper, or you're preparing for an exam, or let's say you're building an application and you're really demotivated, you cannot do all of it that you wanted to do, all of that what you wanted to do in that particular day. But you can start small. Say, like, okay, let me do 10 minutes of work towards it, and 20 minutes I'll watch a show, or I'll watch an episode of something, or I'll have a conversation with a friend, or I'll go out and talk to somebody, or just go out and get some fresh air. So having that time carved out, like every 10 minutes you do, 10 minutes do your work, and then for 20 minutes or 30 minutes take a break, especially when you're feeling demotivated. But when you continue to do that, eventually at some point, the flow of the work that you're doing will get you so hooked that you will not feel or think about the demotivating factor anymore, and you'll start focusing on your work or on whatever that is that you need to focus. So that is the trick that I use, that has worked, and it's a very practical way to get out of that gloomy mindset, I would say.
Now, a lot of things I've been hearing in the recent times about things happening in the industry. Web3, recession, layoffs. A lot of things are happening in the industry. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think? How is the or where is the industry headed towards?
So Web3, again, it's still hazy to me. I would say it's a lot entangled within, still within crypto, blockchain, and all that. There's a lot of there could be good scope, but I have a lot of open questions around it. Like, if everything is decentralized, how are you going to be? What are you going to be doing about all these violations that we've been talking about? How are you going to ensure that all that profanity and all those things that are managed now in a very centralized mode, how is all that going to be taken care of? I mean, of course, there is plan, but I just still have a lot of open questions. It's a good opportunity to learn something, to think about something else, something entirely, or rather slightly different from what we've been doing. So yeah, knowledge of Web3 is something I'm just interested to know what it is. But if you ask me whether I'll pitch in and start contributing to it, I don't know yet because I have a lot of open questions and I don't believe in it 100%. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. I just said I need more clarity to understand it better for me to start believing in it. That's all. So the industry, yeah, this is I wouldn't say difficult times, but times where we have opportunity to roll up our sleeves and look at things differently and contribute to the society and contribute to the industry or the organization that you're part of or to your own self in a much expedited and highly productive way. Or just change gears and change your approach and do something that will be more relevant and relatable to the changing times or to the challenging times, which I would call as a time with a lot of opportunities. Yeah, so I think we will get through it like we have got through a bunch of other phases in the past or other episodes or seasons in the past. But definitely, it will take a lot of hard work from us, strategic hard work from us, and definitely it will involve us embracing the challenge together and keep learning. I think the learning phase has to continue through this time as well. So wherever the industry is headed, I'm pretty sure it is going to involve a lot of unlearning to do. Meaning, don't do things the same way that you've been doing it for so many years. Do look at things differently, and contribute to things differently, but keep contributing is what I would say. With increased productivity and difference in approach, I think we will be able to tackle this.
How was your Google interview experience?
The interview experience itself was terrific. Our recruitment team or the staffing team, they reached out to me. The talent team reached out to me. They had initially shared some ideas, and they said that they find me relevant to the role and also relevant to the some of the things that I've already been doing. So definitely, it was a good start. When they asked me to come up with a timeline or the dates of interviews, I made sure that it was all like it was back to back because I was in the US at that time, so the time zones of the interviewers were from around the globe. So I had to accommodate that as well. So I had interviews in the morning, early in the morning, and late in the night because I was working during the daytime, right? So early in the morning or late in the night, and then that went on for a week. So yeah, the plan was to complete that at least the interview session like in that fashion. The proposal from me from my end was like that. It all was crammed into 1 week. Every day there were there was one interview for about a week, and I had the way it was the is paced was that I had one telephone screening round or yeah discussion round, and then from there on hands-on coding rounds, like 7 rounds of coding interview with technology, with the technology subject matter expertise as well. So that was there every day, and then every day of that particular week that I had planned the interview for. And then there was, apart from the 7 rounds of technology and coding round, there were like behavioral, leadership, and a presentation round as well. Because sometimes in a specific role or in a specific level, you might be required to speak on a technology topic, of course, and you have to. And mine was a hands-on demo discussion as well, even for that one. So it was. I enjoyed the whole experience. I had specifically talked about the interview process, or maybe we can have another session for that, just to focus on that. It's a vast topic, but to just give you highlights, I did prepare because the coding rounds and all. I've always been a Java developer, so that is something that I'm convenient or comfortable with. So I chose Java as my language of coding during the interviews. And I did prepare because even though you can code, even though you have been coding, this involves conversational coding where you speak with the interviewer, you'll have to explain your approach, you'll have to stop and make sure the person understands, because if they don't understand what you're doing, even if you get the result, there's no point. You need to be able to explain that. So all that required some amount of training. So yes, I did go through all of that, mm, or like self-paced, like whiteboard coding and all, without using an IDE. So all that kind of training I did, and then eventually, yeah, it was a great experience, I would say.
Cool. That's really great. And I mean, since you're working as a developer advocate, how can somebody prepare to crack the developer advocate role at Google?
So developer advocacy as such is not like a separate interview process. Since it is aligned in job or role description, it is aligned to the engineering part of the organization or role or the ladder. I would say you will have a similar setup of interviews. You'll have hands-on coding round, you'll have technology rounds, and then you'll have behavioral and all that. Maybe there'll be slight difference in one or two rounds that your the talent partner who's working with you or the recruitment manager who's working with you will definitely keep you aware of the rounds and the preparations that you need to do for that specific round. So yeah, it's very similar to the engineering role.
Another question that most people like to ask is, how can they find job opportunities effectively? Because most people just go directly apply and blame that, they are not getting calls back. So what can somebody do in order to increase their chances of getting a call back from the companies?
I would say start contributing towards the area that interests you. Either build applications, contribute to GitHub repos, or talk about it, create videos, or write about it, create blogs, stuff like that, and keep posting on channels like LinkedIn or social media where you get noticed and people reach out to you. Nowadays, it is automated and people will find you based on the relevance on your relevance in terms of content or in terms of contribution to that role you're trying to apply for. So definitely start contributing rather than chasing the job or the person. It'll be easier for you to get them chase you, I would say. It's another way. Every other way is something that people already know.
How can somebody approach their transitioning into tech? So let's say somebody who is having a different background than tech, somebody who hasn't done a technical degree, let's say they're coming from BCom or MBA, how can they transition to a tech job?
So, tech job could mean anything, meaning starting from generic software application development or application development in cloud or data science, or they could be interested in any specific area like operations, any specific area or in tech with reference to technology. So, whatever it is, it doesn't, there is no boundary as such. But what I would say is, there's definitely room for learning and then switching gears and moving to technology oriented career. What I would say is get started. I mean, you don't necessarily have to enroll in a course per se, but if that helps, if you're somebody who likes to have a stipulated like syllabus or something that's framed and ready for you to follow through, then go for a like a quick what do you call that, micro degrees or nano degrees or whatever it is. Yeah, do that, like whatever, if it helps you, a quick course of a few hours, a few weeks, a few months, then that will definitely help. If not, self-paced learning is also something that's very reliable because you get to I mean, self-paced learning should be driven by what you're planning to do. It should be driven by your interests, it should be driven by your applications. So if you're building an application for a specific idea, or if you are trying to apply for a specific role and you want to build something in reference to that you can use for your interviews or use in the process of building that product or building that application, then definitely focus on specific interest driven areas of study, self-paced videos or material that is available online. There's so much that's available if you want to do if you want to switch. But if you want to do it the right way, I mean, if you think the right way is a framed course or a degree, then that is not a bad idea either. End of the day, it's all learning. The format and your availability is something that's format you cannot control, but it is going to help you no matter what. But your time, your contribution to your own self development is really important. You will have to spend, like, say, 10 hours per week or 15 hours per week, whatever you can, and then see your progress for yourself. So that I think is it's not ruled out. I mean, you shouldn't rule out just because you don't have a degree from computer science or something like that. If you have the interest and passion or the drive for it, then why not?
What would you have advised your younger self if you were to meet your 20s, the same version of you in your 20s, then what would you have now advised?
I would say, yeah, I mean, it's the earlier you learn to empathize, the earlier you learn to value people and the process and the system more. In addition to ideas, definitely it's the better, the earlier the better. I'm not saying that I did not value people or empathy or anything of that sort, but it's just that I was not as aware as I would have liked to be. So the awareness and consciously being empathetic with your surrounding, with your people, and with the work that you're doing or with the ideas. Being aware of it and being conscious about it takes you a long way. So definitely that is the one thing that I would say. Like no matter what, be present, be conscious, be aware of what is going on around you, and what you have in yourself to contribute, to give to others, and what you can learn from others. So being empathetic is something that I would have liked to have consciously done in my early stages of my career. Even though I consciously tried to be. Being nice and being empathetic are totally different things. So I mean, you will understand the difference when you. I mean, if you're conscious, then you will really understand the difference. And I believe that it would have been much better if I had known that early on, because even though I would try to be empathetic and try to be nice and try to be present, it was not as aware and as conscious as I would have liked for it to be. So that is something that I really enjoy and appreciate right now. That is more important than anything else, like whether it's for personal life or professional life. In professional life, if you're empathetic, it'll just take you to distances and heights that you never imagined. If it's in your personal life, you will get happiness and peace. What else can I say? I think that's the one thing that I'll tell myself, younger self.
I think we're quite done with what we wanted to talk today. Thank you so much for coming. How was your experience? Did you enjoy the podcast?
Totally, yeah. Except for the part where you yawned when I was speaking, I enjoyed the whole podcast. Just kidding. I know you're tired, but yeah, I hope I did not bore you with a lot of information.
No, I mean, whatever that helps the audience, that's what I'm here for, and I'm very sure the audience would be finding it much more informative, and I'm very sure they will find it helpful. Thank you once again for coming and spending time. It's been a great pleasure, and we'll meet again soon.
Definitely, Udesh. Thank you.
If you want to check out blogs by Abirami, she also has a YouTube channel, TLDR with Abirami Sukumaran. Do check that out. And also, I'll share some links in the description for the blogs which you have written, which will be super helpful for you in order to get yourself into your career path. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have found this helpful. We'll catch up soon in another one. Till then, it's me, the Cloud Pilot, signing off.